I have talked so far about the first and second autoscroller in Celeste any%. The first one had the most variety and showed us things like ceiling pops and grounded ultras and their usage. In the second video of this video series, I showed you the TAS in more detail, plus I went over why the blockless method for this room is probably one of the hardest threats in the entire game for human beings. Going into the third autoscroller, which I thought will be a shorter and more basic video, I got a few surprises for you. We will talk about the basic method and the infamous autoscroller skip, but at the very end I also want to feature the current TAS method since, well, just look yourself. With that being said, let's get ready with the video. Hello everybody, my name is Flash177. I create all kinds of speedrun content here on YouTube, especially for Celeste. So Celeste is the right game for you, or you just want to learn in general about speedrunning, go check out my channel. I have a ton of speedrun explain videos like this one, general advice, and showcase my own speedruns or other Celeste mods. Please make sure to check out part 1 and 2 of this video series. I covered the first 2 autoscrollers in those videos, and if something is confusing you in this one, I probably covered it in one of the other 2. So please watch them first before you continue. The third and final autoscroller room in the Celeste any% speedrun is located in the middle of the 2000 meter section of Summit, the final chapter of the game. The original way of doing this room is quite slow, like with all autoscrollers, since the goal of this room was to bring the moving block all the way to the end where it will function as a platform to reach the exit. But yeah, that is very slow. A method that skips most of the block's transport and saves roughly 4 seconds over the casual thread was discovered very early, like probably week 1 or even day 1. I don't know exactly when it was discovered, but the first world record I could find which uses the skip was the 35:20 run by TGH at the end of February 2018, 1 month after the game's release. You start the room off like normal, but once you approach this tunnel you don't grab the block from the side but stay on top. From here on we abuse the block's momentum, like we always do, to increase the speed of our extended hyperdash to reach further distances. It does help if the block is as high as possible, but keep an eye out that you are not too high to avoid the spikes at the top. After the hyperdash we travel quite the distance before finishing off this thread with 2 diagonal upwards dashes to reach this block. It is kinda close for the most part. Here you can also see that the higher you hyperdash off the block the better it is, since you can fall further to the right. Once we are at the end of the room, the easier part starts, since all we need to do is using a wall bounce and our second dash to reach this platform. Moving from the regular skip, in early 2019 the autoscroller skip, like we know it nowadays, was brought to the attention of RTA runners by a person called Toofy. The strat is using clever movement and tiny spaces where marlin can either stand on or go through to beat this room without escorting the block to its end. They got inspired by the TAS, which used to do the skip since a much longer time, but I will talk about the TAS later. The skip can be around 2 seconds faster than the regular version, depending on how fast you execute it. There isn't really much to say about this method other than it is quite precise and tricky to play through this section fast, so this is not an easy strat to beat this room. Just be aware that a tiny mistake in this room often leads to death rather than a small time loss like in other rooms. This method is so fast that even the second most recent 22:21 TAS uses a variation of this strat. Since it is a TAS, the movement is much more optimized with corner boosts and other stuff, which makes it faster but far too risky for human beings to execute it. Here's a time comparison of the old TAS versus the current world record of this room. The newer TAS, like I teased in the beginning, is far more crazier than the old one. I didn't know that the current TAS, which got released very recently on September 4th, had so many crazy strats in it. If you haven't watched it, go check it out after this video, there's a link in the description. So just take a look and see if you can catch anything what is happening here before we slow it down and break it down into its details. But before that, I wanna thank all people that helped me making these videos in the first place. Without people like Marlin, Plush, fishmcmuffins and euni, I wouldn't have been able to explain most of the stuff in these 3 videos. So I wanna give them a special shout out just here. I totally forgot to do that in the other videos. Do me and yourself a favor and check these people out. They are great and helpful, and without such help almost no video explaining a speedrun in greater detail would exist. So with that being said, what is really happening in this room right now? The beginning is the most impressive part. It starts slow by getting this block in the right position, which involves some waiting, since there needs to be space between the block and those spikes. Marlin then jumps high in the air, higher than usual, but that happens because they move the block for 1 frame upwards and use that given momentum for a higher jump. After that, the TAS lands on the block in a way that they fall off the block but still count as grounded. That is called the coyote time, or a coyote time. The coyote time just describes the 5 frames in which we are in the air but count as grounded, which allows for coyote jumps and other shenanigans. Yet again, if you don't know what a coyote jump is, watch my first and second video about the Celeste autoscrollers. I explained it there, and there's no reason to explain it in all 3 videos. In this coyote time, a hyperdash gets executed, since we are still in a grounded state. This dash is called a coyote hyper and is the beginning of a big speed gain. This is, by the way, the frame in which the coyote hyper starts. For the upcoming part, I need to explain how block momentum works. You already know that any moving block can translate its momentum onto Marlin and increase her speed. The rule is, after touching a block, you get for every action a speed boost when it happens within the next 10 frames after you touch the block. Which basically explains why speed boosts of moving blocks work so well. We will just call these speed boosts block boosts. That's like the official name that is used by testers and people who know about this game. So our coyote hyper gives us already 1 block boost on top of our hyper momentum we gain from it. And since we are now behind the block and have enough space, the TAS is executing 4 very quick climb jumps, which all give us block momentum on top of our current speed. And this speed is stacking. We only do 4 climb jumps because after that our stamina runs out, and if you don't slow down the footage and just watch it at normal speed, it just looks like Marlin instantly uses all her stamina and gets exhausted. That's how quick these jumps are happening here. And that is basically all momentum / speed we gain here. After that we just slide off the block, which gives us coyote time once again. Since it is a matter of frames rather than the distance, we travel really far within the 5 frames of our coyote time. On the last frame of our coyote time, which you see right here, we do a crouched coyote jump near this spike wall. Fun fact, that last coyote jump also gives us a block boost. People who know this game know that a crouch state is small enough to allow us to go through specific spots in a spike wall. It is basically like a demo dash, but without a dash, so it's just a demo? Anyways, jokes aside, this is incredibly precise, but also looks impressive as hell. I wonder how people even come up with ideas like these. Props to the testers of this game, or to any tester of any speed game. Incredible work they do. Go check out the current TAS once again. Please just do it. It is a pleasure to watch. The room is not over yet, but this is definitely the most impressive part I can show here. Followed after the crouched coyote jump through the spike wall, we just fly through the screen for many frames. Halfway through the room we do 1 diagonal upwards dash to gain enough height. I believe the second dash wouldn't benefit us at all, because the additional height would just lose us time for falling, and we need to refresh our dash at the last platform, so the height we gain from 1 diagonal upwards dash is enough. Also, the speed is quite visible by how far the berry is away from Marlin. It is just chillin' over here basically. After we slide off the ground to regain our double dash and crash into this wall, which loses all our speed, we go back to regular gameplay with, human viable gameplay. We just fall as we all know, but instead of doing a wall bounce, we do a corner kick off the spike wall, since it is slightly faster like I mentioned earlier. Finishing off with a regular dash, the room is basically over, and this is probably the craziest TAS thread I have yet explained on this channel. I was going into this video with the expectation that it is going to be less interesting and that there is also less to cover like in the other 2 videos. But after I watched the current TAS and got mind blown, I'm actually quite happy to show and explain this TAS method in this video. If you enjoyed this TAS explain and want to see more in the future, like videos that primarily just explain the current Celeste TAS, then let me know in the comments or leave a like right here. I'm still thinking about what my next speedrun explain videos should be, and I will probably ask you guys on Twitter because that's the easiest way to get feedback from you guys. So if you want to give me feedback and want to decide what videos I should make next, go check out my Twitter. There will be polls in the upcoming days or weeks. Thank you all for watching this video to the very end. This was the last video of the Autoscroller video series. Go check out my Twitch and Twitter, as I said already. I will probably start streaming again soon with Celeste any% for the sub 30 grind, so maybe you can see each other in a stream if you want to hang out. Hope you are looking forward to more speedrun explain videos. As always, have a great day and happy speedrunning.